This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding.
So this video, everyone, I'm talking about Eiyuden 100 Heroes, which is straight up is the worst game in decades. This is the most disappointing game that I have ever played in my life, and I genuinely mean that. Now, perhaps it was the worst of the worst games, perhaps, but this is made by a well-recognized, famous game developer that's made some of the greatest games of all time, Suikoden II, of course, commented later, and for them then to deliver this incredible horse shit of a game, and I mean generally, this is the worst game I've played. Disappointing game. It is insanely bad in so many aspects, and I was here immediately, do not buy it for Switch, okay? This game is unplayable on Switch, like literally unplayable. It crashes all the time. It's super buggy, it's completely unstable, and they have done nothing to fix that with patches. They keep releasing, they come with DLCs today, yesterday. They keep just trying to get all your nostalgia. They don't deserve your money for a second. They haven't fixed anything. The game is incredibly badly balanced. Mag doesn't work, combo doesn't work, and they don't fix anything. Everything's happening. There's more DLC to get more money, right? Absolutely don't buy the game. Do not buy it for DLC, and absolutely do not buy it on the Switch, right? Let's now then. But this will be a long video, guys. You can subscribe, press the like button, because I got a lot of things to say about this game, and I mean a lot of it. Suikoden II, everyone, is one of the greatest games ever made. I, of course, here have a real copy of arguably the greatest game to PlayStation 1, right? I also, for that matter, have two copies of Suikoden III, right? Got a little more wise here, so I bought two copies. This one in mint condition. Never open it, mint condition, right? I also have two copies of Suikoden Tactics, right? Suikoden Tactics, spin-off as well. So I really know my Suikoden. So, Suikoden 2 then, very famous game, very, very recognizable, very iconic. And then we have the spirit of successor, Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, being the worst game I played in a decade. This game is absolutely insanely terrible, and it drives me crazy, right? Like I showed you guys, I love the classic old games. I love this game, right? I don't want to make a video. I don't want to sit here and tell you that Eiyuden Chronicle is the worst game ever, but it really is. It genuinely has the worst minigame I've ever played in my life. It's to spend like 10 hours in a absurdly 3 grinding minigames to get all the characters. It's just absurdly bad, okay? Nothing in the game works. Magic doesn't work. Healing is pointless, or you don't have to have a healer. The balance of the game is pointless. Like only like 10% of the 100 characters are playable, so you can skip 9 of the characters. The storyline is shit, honestly. It's like Disney Scroll 2. The game is constantly crashing. It's just like terrible. The quests are terribly designed. They also have a lot of bugs there too. There are soft locks you can get out of the game, and nothing has been fixed right. And the only reason people defend this game is that the culprit. They're copying just like me because they grew up with these kind of games, right? And they love these games, like I do too, and they just can't accept that people that made that game 20 years ago are terrible now, right? Because most of them are terrible. And it really is disappointing because these people are not new devs, right? They have made many games before. They have made like 6 Suikoden games before this thing, and this comes out and it's his disappointing game of the decade. It is insanely bad. Let's go into details. First, I want to address the game's insanely terrible game balance. So sometimes, right, people see game balance as, oh, it has to be PvP, right? But no. PvE, game balance, it matters a lot, right? It can be stuff like how fast do you level, how hard is the game, and so on, right? Etc. So first of all, 90% of the characters are completely useless, okay? You have to put for the brother, but they're all shit, okay? They're all terrible. Because their stats are so bad. Some of the characters have like half the stat of another character for no reason. There's one character in the game, which are 2 characters, to fill up a double slot, and she still has like half the stats of the other character on the same level for no reason, right? So that doesn't make any sense. This is like the dumbest thing ever. I mean, It's kind of like if you play Pokemon, right? Imagine this game is Pokemon. It's very simple, 120 characters, very similar to Pokemon first game. Imagine playing Pokemon, but only like maybe 10 or so of the original Pokemons were viable, right? In all. And everything else is completely pointless. They have absurdly bad stats. There's like one fire Pokemon that has like 10 health, the other one has like 500 health. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the game balance is so bad in this game. And no, it gets way worse, okay? Magic is completely pointless. Magic doesn't do anything, because magic does so little damage, and one spell and you're out of mana immediately for like the first, I don't know, 20 hours in the game, seriously. So no one can use magic, so only magic is physical stats, right? And it gets worse, because healing is also pointless, or rather, healing is pointless, because healing is only based on the target's maximum health. So healing characters, or like priests or whatever, are worse healers than the ninja character. Hagarune, the ninja lady, is the fastest character in the game. She's the best healer, because she always goes first, right? So healing doesn't matter how much like magic power you have. It only matters how fast you heal. So it's like, what? And generally speaking, the best healers are the tanks with high health points and a lot of high mana. They can heal themselves and heal them more than other character can. So it's pointless having any magical character until the very end when Momo appears, and he's like 10 times better than the other mages in the game. Suddenly then he's the best character in the game, right? Because he's like absurdly good. But every other magic, completely useless. It's insane. And it gets even worse. You can combine character attacks in this game, like in old games, right? So you can have two characters doing an AoE together in Suikoden 2, and they do like, you know, dear physical damage to everyone. Or they can do like 3x damage to a boss or whatever, right? 2 of them and so on. Or 3 if they combine, etc. That was interesting. That made sense in the old games, because maybe like a character with weaker stats could still be useful because you combine them and had like 2 really good synergies and blah blah so on. But in this game, that's like literally broken. I mean broken as in it doesn't work. You can take 3 characters, that's the combination build in this game, and they will do 200 damage per attack individually, ergo 0 damage. But on a triple attack thing, they do like 50 damage. So it's just broken. Like, it doesn't work. It's some weird scaling. Like, it's like someone did the math correctly in the game. Same thing with magic, right? Like I said, magic is pointless in the game until you're very, very late game. So, of course, as I mentioned earlier, all the characters are pointless or not like physically strong, right? You have to purely be physically strong and have high defense points. Only in the match in the game, yeah. And healing, like I said, the tanks are actually better healers. Like, it's insanely bad. And it gets worse. They are so dumb. One good example is, for example, that this is girl. She can heal one character for free. So every character in the game has like a unique trait ability they can use to. So some have dodge, someone has like guard to take less damage, so on, right? So one girl, she can heal them, right? And if her and her brother are on the same team, they can do a healing combo, okay? So you can heal everyone. So you can heal everyone, your whole team every turn. That sounds great on paper, right? However, she heals like 5 health points. I'm not even kidding you. She heals like 1% of your max health or something. So if you have a character with like 400 health points, she's like 4 health points. Like, it's like so bad, because I think it literally heals you like 1 or 2% of your maximum health for everyone, right? So it's all scales based on that, and it's so little, right? And it costs 2 characters' turn to do that. It's so badly done. Like, how did this get capacity? And then there are some characters like Reva. She's the only tank in the game, the actual tank, because her unique ability is cover and counter. She covers for your allies. She counter hits on the enemy. She might do like 6 attacks on that, and the other character is having like defend. So she takes less damage and counters and defense for your allies, and the other guy uses defense. Then you have characters like Yosuke and Euphoros that have charge up, take less damage than the double the damage the next turn. So it's like, why do you have like guard, and these guys have like guard plus attack bonus? You have dodge on Leon. Hagur has expert dodge. They do the exact same thing. So expert dodge gives you more percentage increase. Like, this game is insanely bad. I mean, seriously, like, what a fight this game. It's the worst thing I've seen in my life. So many abilities do nothing. Magic doesn't work. Magic literally doesn't work at all in the game. All the healing is just scaled based on max health, so it doesn't matter what you are. Again, the best healer is the fastest character because she also goes first. It's so much stuff like that, right? And also lately, the best character in the game is Momo, the only mage in the game that's actually pretty powerful, because he attacks based on his magical power. So in the end of the game, he hits harder than your strongest physical character. His normal attack is the hardest in the game, and also has the highest magical damage as well, and also probably has the highest mana or top mana character. You're like, wait, what? So it just completely makes sense. And lastly, it's not ending there. The order how you get the character also makes no sense, right? So you have like the best character in the game, Yosuke. He's the first character you get in the game. I'm not even kidding you. He's the best character in the game because, okay, fine, Yofuros is better than him, like straight up better than him. However, Yofuros is one of 6 characters. Right? You have 6 party members, a Pokemon, meaning that if Yosuke is the second best character, he's more probably like the 4th best character in the game. But you get my point. He's like the 4th best character in total out of 150 characters. And you get him. You literally get him first. Okay. So why would you ever swap him out of your team? Then you get both Yofuros, Revia, and Hagu at the same place. Hagu is really important, but it's basically the same 10 minutes. You get those 3 characters, and they're all like 1, 2, and 3 in the game. So you get like 3 of the best character in the same like hour you play the game, right? Why would you ever replace them? Like, why would you ever replace them? All the characters are pointless compared to them. It doesn't make any sense. It's only Momo, which is the best magic character you get late in the game, okay? Like, nothing else makes sense. It's so absurd, okay? It's so absurd. And of course you can see swap character, you can go around, but why would you? Why would you gimp yourself having, oh, I'm gonna play with the character that has half the defense and physical, like why would you play with the character that has this way weaker stats, right, than the other character you already have? So if you get a new character, they will have a lower level than usually, because the level when you get the character are completely randomized. I have no idea. So sometimes you get the character in the higher levels than you, sometimes lower level than you. I guess they just have some fixed number when you get them. So basically, when you pick up a new character, usually the lower level than you, and they have way worse stats than like Yosuke and so on, right? So you're like, why would I replace them for? Why would I spend my time replacing that character? Like it doesn't make it. It's so dumb. Like it is. I haven't seen this thing in years. Okay, like this. Like I would genuinely basically better in one workday. I could have done this 10 times better myself. The Excel sheet, all the stats, and do it better, right? You know, and it's so boring too because I mean it's not like Pokemon, you know. Like Pokemon is a good competitor to it. Pokemon where you have, for example, oh, this Pokemon is really fast. He always goes first. He has very high speed, but he lacks special attack, right? You know. This Pokemon here has really high defense points, blah blah. So you can have this like different, you know, like interesting designs. It's called orthogonal design. So you have interesting stats, right, or special abilities. No. Most of the characters here are just pointless because you have like 50 characters, right? They have the exact same basically passives or whatever. They have the exact passives. They just have lower stats. They don't. It's not like they don't have uniquely high speed or high attack power or some interesting passive. No. They literally just have lower attack, health, mana, defense points, and doesn't have a unique passive. They're just bad. I mean, they're just bad at everything. And it drives me crazy because it truly is incredibly bad. And like I said, there's something that you basically never swap teammates, right? You have basically the same. I basically use the same 5-6 character the whole game, right? Like the 80% of the game, I use the same character basically. There's no point of ever swapping characters. It's so boring. Sometimes you have to swap character with the storyline, and then you dread it. It's one quest in the game, but you have to play with the blue guys, so to speak, from story later, and you're just like, oh my god, they're so terrible. This character here, their stats are just insanely bad. Like it's a girl you see in the middle there, she has a big love thing. She has like 100 attack damage, when other characters have like 400, 350 on her level, and you're like, how? What the f? And she doesn't have more health, no more mana. She just has like a third of the other character's stats. And you have to have your team. And you're like, why? Right? Why? Why is it like that for? Like it doesn't make any sense. At least give her more mana or whatever, right? You know what I mean? And all the things that the game is still too easy. I played the game on like perfect hard, whatever, true hard, and the game is still incredibly easy. But it's just like, why? It just make it just remove so much of the fun of it. That's not bringing out the first, because the game truly has absurdly bad balance. It arguably is the worst balanced game I've ever seen in my life. But of course you won't hear people complain about it, right? Because it's a PvE game. If it was a PvP game, it obviously would be lambasted massively. Again, because if you had a PvP game, let's say League of Legends, right? But you could only play like 5 of the 100 champions, everyone would have complained about that, you know what I mean? But now it's like, whatever, it's a PvE, I just pick the best character and play it, you know? but it's really absurd. But like I said, I think it's so stupid to that, like, literally, magic and combo text and all, like, doesn't work. Like, they literally doesn't work. They don't do anything until you get the best mage, and then he's, like, incredibly OP, right, of course, because there's no in-between, right? So you basically end up just out-teching. The whole game is basically you just have 6 tanks in the game, give them all water runes so they can heal each other. Yeah, 6 tanks with healing runes for each other, right? And then you just auto-attack through all the enemies. That's the best strategy in the game. I mean, literally best strategy. Because they will hit harder than the spells are. So even if you only have 1 spell per fight, right? The guy that are punching, they're punching so much harder that they still over-punch that 1 spell. Euphoros with a double charge doing his SP5 thing with like one almost every boss in the game. So he's like yaw cinematic, but like 2000 damage, and a normal attack is like 200 damage, and a spell is like 100 damage. I'm not even kidding. So you're like, why would I ever use magic? And then I guess you have buffs too, right? But also the buffs didn't work either. So if you buff someone with like an elemental sword, so they can punch like a fire sword, that still does like 200 damage. It does like 1 more damage. So you do like 500 damage plus 1. And you're like, what? So it's never worth spending your turn to like buff each other. The only thing that's worth doing for a few bosses is buffing your elemental defense, okay? So buffing like you reduce 5 damage for 3 turns. That is worth it, I guess, some bosses. But like giving someone like a fire sword or an earth attack or whatever, so to speak, it seems to always pointless, because it adds so little, right? That having that character attack instead, which is probably better, right? So even if you do like maybe say 30 more damage per like attack, so it goes from like 500 to 30, right? But if other characters attacks, it's 500 damage, so it's like never worth it to buff anyone offensively. Buffing defensively does actually do something, because you reduce damage take rate, but buffing defensively, pointless. Attack spells generally are pointless until you get very, very late game, and basically only healing spells on everyone, which again means that the actual healing characters are based on healing have no purpose, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, it's better as being a tank and heal or a ninja and heal. It's really insane. And also lastly, stuff like dodging just never happens. So a character like Leon, they can like dodge, it's like normal dodge. I never seen it work. Like it just doesn't work. It's like it doesn't do anything. It's like way too low. It's just way too low for it. It's insane. And then some boss fight had gimmicks, which are way easy to abuse too. It's just so bad, guys. And trust me, we're only getting started this video, guys. We're coming to the minigames, so even worse. We got subscribers on. This game drives me crazy. And I haven't said earlier, but you know, this game was like 3 months ago. And I've been very, very lukewarmly playing this game now, you know, during my commute sometimes. And I kind of force myself to play the game. Oh god. So let's go on then to the next subject. As I mentioned, Reina is the only character in the game that's an actual tank. She can actually cover and counter and so on, right? She's completely broken. I mean, genuinely, this character is... Not only does she take like 1 damage from everything, she also can cover and actually taunt, so to speak, right? So she's just like the best of the best tank, and playing with her makes every boss obsolete, basically. Like, insanely overpowered. But her quest is bugged. So you see, next issue in the game then is that the game has tremendously amount of issues with bugs, crashes, quest bugging and so on, right? So, first of all, I mentioned earlier in the video, right? The game is unplayable on Switch. You can't buy this game on Switch, okay? You can't buy it on Switch. It doesn't work on Switch at all. It also is incredibly size. It takes up the whole Switch memory and so on. It's just such a bad coded game on Pokemon. It's so badly coded. But, so see, even ignoring all the crashes, okay? So the game has, again, a lot of crashes on Switch. And also other consoles too, but Switch. Okay. But even ignoring that, the game is tremendously bugged too, with minor stuff. So for example here, I bring up Reina because her quest is bugged. The game will tell you that you have to fight her in 3 turns and beat her, or you're doing 1,500 damage to her in 3 turns and you get her as a character. That's false. You have to beat her in 2 turns. The 3rd turn that happens doesn't do anything. It doesn't count. It only counts the first 2 turns for some reason. So when I was playing her, right, I was charging with Euphos on Yosuke for 2 turns. Because they have a 3-turn charge to max damage, right? So I was like charge, punch her, and I can just never get the quest down. Eventually I was like, am I just bad? Googled up and read it. So I was like, no, because it's bugged. It's only 2 turns, not 3 turns. Okay, so 1 shot punch. Oh, now I get her, right? So, okay. And this is the whole game. When you have a part in the castle, you have to have 5 cutscenes in the castle, okay? You have to move around in the castle to get like 5 different cutscenes. If you go to the wrong door, to your own room, or the balcony and so on, the game just resets the cutscenes, and you can't progress the game. You're literally permanently locked out of progress the game. So you have to turn off the game and reload a previous save. That save is like destroyed. Like, it's crazy. So if you play this game, you learn to save constantly and have like 10 different saves, right? And different story bits, right? With a few hours in between. Because it's so many bugs. When you are like giving a guy like a blacksmith, oh, I want 10, iron ore, right? But if you have the ore on you, he won't accept the ore. So you have to like, you have to get the quest and then pick up the ore and then give it to him. But if you have 5 of the 10 ore and then get 5 more, it doesn't count, and you get 15. So you have to go back to you and sell the 5 and then get 10 and give it to him. So the whole game is all the time. It's so many minor bugs. Like, it's crazy. Like, almost, like half the quests in the game are bugged, and I'm making it up. They have so many issues. Not just a drop rate or weird stuff, or like they don't count your item progression and so on. The game is like filled with this stuff. It also is crazy. People are copying it so far because the thing is that, yes, I also love Suikoden, right? And Suikoden's a great game and so on. And people are defending this game saying that, oh, you're just being, nostalgic. This game is equally as good as, the old games. No, it isn't. Okay? Because even ignoring the crash, right? Even ignoring that stuff, like I said, this game still has like 500 minor bugs that like ruins half the quest in the game, right? And honestly, I felt that one reason why I didn't beat this game for like 3-4 months was because when I was playing the game, right? When I was commuting, I only played on the commute. I have to like Google on my phone, like, I can't get this quest done. Like, I have the items. And someone is like, oh, you have to go back and do things. Okay, what? Oh, this quest is bugged. You have to like teleport in and out of the city. What? Oh, this quest is like, well, this, what's her name again? Oh, the ninja lady, the old ninja lady. That quest is bugged. So if you enter a village with this woman in a red suit, a red dress, Chinese woman, she will never be able to be, it's like a question mark on her face, or her head is dead. So you can never recruit her if you enter the city for the first time with the wrong party members. Which you of course can't know, right? So I couldn't recruit her. I have to go on Reddit or Google, find an issue on Reddit thread, and then I have to reload an old save, like a few hours earlier, having to replay the last like 2 hours, and then get to that city with the correct, like party members, so I wouldn't trigger that bug, So this game is crazy. This doesn't work. It's only 2 or 3 turns, right? This game is just insane. You're like, oh my effing god. So when people are defending and say that, oh, you're only being nostalgic because you love this game. No. These games worked. They didn't have any bugs, right? They didn't have, objectively, terrible stuff, right? And it's just insane. And that brings us to the minigames, because even if because people say, copy, okay, but these are bugs. They're unintentional. Well, let me tell you, the minigames are the worst designed games I've ever seen in my life. And that's our own intention. Sure, when you play the terrible minigame, they also crash all the time on Twitch, okay? So that makes it even worse, but ignoring that, no. The minigames are intentionally done right. They are the worst shit ever. This is the worst minigame of all time. I could never believe that Beyblade, or it's called Beigoma then, in New Heroes, would be the absolute worst minigame of all time. I have played like every JRPG ever published, and this is by far the worst minigame of all time. It's insanely bad. So they made this Beyblade clone, obviously, right? You have to pick your Beigomas, as called them, and play with them. And this game is the worst minigame ever, because it has 0 skills. All that matters is the level, or what kind of rank your Beigoma has. Then you just press the A button. The game literally has, it's the most boring, tedious minigame that's ever made. That's the only thing you do. You press the button here, and then you press the button. Press the button. Press the button. Like, nothing else happens, okay? Literally nothing else happens. You can't, there's no gameplay. You just press the button. And you also have to travel around in this world and defeat like 50 players. Like, it's insane. It's like a 3-4 hours grind of pressing one button, because nothing else can be done in the game. And either it's impossible to win at Beyblade because your actual Beyblade is too low rank, right? or it's incredibly easy because you get the best Beyblade and then down in the game, then you can never lose, but you have to just fight everyone all the time. It's just such an incredibly bad... So I'm not kidding here. I'm not being hyperbolic. Beigoma or Beyblade that is the worst spinning game that I have played in years. And it genuinely is the worst spinning game that I have ever seen in the JRPG game. And I really mean that. This game is incredibly bad. It's insane how bad it is. Because, like I keep saying, you only press the A button. And you can't play the game. You go up to beat these guys, you just press the button. You just press the button. You don't do anything else. And the game has this massive issue of being bloated by just terrible, terrible minigames. So you have this game, you have a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game, which is by far the best minigame, but you actually have a little bit skill. It's incredibly easy, but a little bit skill at least. And then you also have a cooking game, right, like in the old Suikoden II game. So the cooking game is equally also incredibly tedious and boring. It also didn't work, really. Like, basically, the opponent always loses because everyone hates their food. And I read there might have patched this thing, and I doubt it, because it basically is that whatever you cook them, they don't care about it. They don't have favorite food. It says that, because they don't care. It might be the text, I guess, from translation, but it seems it doesn't work. So basically, so you just cook the very basic, like an omelette or whatever, some very, very basic food that everyone just kind of likes. You will always win. I've never lost a single time in the cooking bed either, because it's incredibly easy, right? And the same thing with the Beyblade thing, it just takes like a few hours to do it, and it's just bloating, right? So normally you have minigames, and it makes sense, right? Because they have a challenge, like Blitzball. I love Blitzball, FF10, great, you know, Suikoden Racing, and so on. And certainly there are some bad minigames in other games too. Of course there are. F7 Rebirth has like, 500 minigames, and I made a video about the frog game, which was very tedious, right? Very annoying, kind of frustrating. But at least it was somewhat challenging, right? These minigames here are just dead brain rot, like 0 out of 100,000 intelligence. I mean, genuinely, the minigame here are so incredibly easy. Even this Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game thing, who has very, very minor skills, is like 1 out of 10 in skill. Yeah, it's incredibly easy. And obviously the general gameplay in this game is also very, very easy, right? But these minigames are truly like dead brain. Like, it's just insane how easy they are. Like I said, the Beyblade game, you just press one button. You literally don't do anything else. And that's, of course, why it's just like a pay-to-win thing. The best Beyblade will always win, right? Yet, they're so incredibly long. In the Beyblade game, right, you have to fight like everyone in every city. It's like 50 duels, an insane amount to do it. It really takes a few hours to do it, okay? If you follow a guide, maybe it goes like 1.5, 2 hours, because you don't have to go around them. But if you're playing it like I did from scratch, you have to find everyone as well, right? It takes a long time, and it's just really, really tedious and boring. It's just like grind with absolutely, again, then, 0 challenge to it, right? Cooking game, same thing. It is like 16 battles to get this guy's wife, instead of just maybe having like 5 or 6 or so. Again, like I mentioned, right, it's super tedious because it's boring. You can't lose at it. But even if you could lose at it, at least there was like a few of them, right? But no, it's so long. It's just so long. And it's obviously here purely to, add extra time, right? If you would have minigames in this game, I probably would have played this game for like at least probably 10 less hours. And again, they're just really, really boring. And like I keep saying, F7 Rebirth, right, has so many minigames. But the card game, F7 Rebirth, the Queen's Gambit, that actually a pretty fun game. It's a puzzle game, how to build your decks right. Actually a pretty good game, Gwent, whatever, right, in Witcher or so on. Those guys are pretty good, right? Suikoden Racing, not the best minigame, but pretty fun in F7 Rebirth. These games are pretty fun, right? It should be challenging. They have to be an actual game, I guess. As well. They have to be fun, preferably. But at least I would prefer if it was hard, right? They have to be some kind of challenge. You can't just press a button. Pressing a button for 3 hours is just boring. Like, what's the point? End of the day, right? We all know this is purely here to just fill out the game. It is purely here, like I said, to bloat the game, to, instead of beating the game in 50 hours, now it takes 60 hours, because we have incredibly badly, again, then overly grindy minigames, right? Because what is the point otherwise? Like, what's the point of having 16 chefs instead of like 6 or 5, whatever? It doesn't get harder, right? And I really mean that. Like, they're literally, you can't lose with them. So it's basically just like playing the same stage over and over and over again. And I'm sitting there wondering, why does it end? Because you can't just fight the chefs immediately. You have to go back to your city over and over again. every time you return, a new chef is there. So it's like every time you return, it's like, well, finally, when it's over. Like, it's insane. And it feels so soulless. I talked about earlier, right? We have, Suikoden tactics here, right, for example, right? And we have, obviously, talked about earlier, Suikoden 3 and so on. Silly Mint and so on, right? But all of these games have mini-games, Full of Tactics. Phantom Brave has the inter-world thing. It's like a mini-game per se and so on, right? All of the games have mini-games, right? It's just like, that's how it goes, right? These companies, I feel that they just put all these minigames here to again at a time and just like soullessly, well, we're making a JRPG, we have to throw in like 10 minigames. And honestly, right, because people compare F7 Rebirth, I can say it, that game is 100 times better than this game. Because at least they were all playable. At least some of them are really fun. Like, I respect the card game, Queen's Gambit is a good minigame, you know what I mean? It also has like a Yu-Gi-Oh spin to it, like, oh, I'm an evil queen or whatever, right? So some jokes about it. But it is fun to play. You have to build your deck and so on, right? It's not the hardest game ever, but it's somewhat enjoyable, you know what I mean? This is truly the worst minigame I have ever seen in my life, and I genuinely mean it. And I was prepared, but I hate it so much. Like I said, I have played thousands of minigames. I have played hundreds of JRPGs, and they all have, like 1 to 5 minigames, right, or more. So I have probably played at least 1,000 minigames, and this is genuinely the worst minigame of all time. Now, let's talk about the story, right? So, of course, Suikoden 2 is known as arguably the greatest story of ever, right? One of the best storylines to Mr. 1 and so on. And, to be fair, this game here can't, of course, have the history and the lore of Suikoden 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. Because, obviously, here, for example, we have Yuber, he's the bad guy. He's an appearance from the first game. Second game, he's reoccurring, blah, blah, so on. Of course, a new spiritual successor can't have that, right? Can't have that. But, that being said, everything else is just terrible. I mean, honestly, the game is very, very much, it's very simplistic. It feels very, very rudimentary. And, I mean, honestly, it's basically like, how can I say it? If the old game is like much more, complicated, you have Luca, he's the big baddie, then you have another big baddie, and it's like who's tricked to who is all right. The new game doesn't have any betrayal, it's just kind of like whatever. It's very much just like bad guy, good guy. Yeah, it's very, very simplistic. And was a Guardian, I have no idea still, played the whole game. Nothing makes any sense in the game from like an actual tension standpoint. There's an incredibly terrible thing in this game. That is that every time you lose a city, I mean in a storyline, so you can't defend city, one city even gets taken over by zombies, but you can still walk into the city. Like literally, you will lose a city to a zombie invasion, but you can still return to the city and walk around it. And there are zombies everywhere, but they won't attack you. That's just really stupid. And you can go to the city and still shop there, use the blacksmith, and recruit characters. So even if everyone is eradicating and running away from the zombies, right, in the storyline, you can go back to any time you want, and everything is normal and all the zombies there. Let's go for every city. So losing a city in the storyline doesn't matter. In one story bit with one of the other guys, you're up in another country with them. If you have finished that side quest with them in another country, now you can teleport to that city, even if you can't actually walk there. It's stuff like that. And I guess it's because they're just lazy. Honestly, they're lazy game developers. Because you can recruit a fox lady in a zombie city, and instead of having her relocate to another city, or having her die, right, losing a character, she still stands there, so you can still recruit her. So I think they just were lazy. So that losing the access to cities, or losing characters, they just made it doesn't matter. So every time in the storyline in this game, something dramatically happens, it has no effect, right? And it really has no there's no betrayal. The bad guy's just bad for being bad. There's no back lore explaining the rune lens or whatever. So it's just very, very rudimentary. It's very, very like vanilla. It's trying to be this game massively because you have the blue guy, the yellow guy, like they have the same color scheme and so on, right? It's trying to be so much. But the new Yowie is a joke. He has a little bit backstory, but he has no real purpose for the storyline. So it doesn't really matter, right? He's not a Yowie character. And another thing is that even if it had several games in franchise, I still think it would fail, honestly, because the rune thing is just so weaker here. In the original Suikoden games, the runes are evil, kinda. The runes take them over. Most of them are like evil and makes you turn into evil, right? And some of them make you good, I suppose. But basically the rune controls you. Also your behavior, they have this 27, true runes, and all this backstory and lore and so on. But in this game, the rune lenses are just a weaker, worse lore. Where it's like, oh, it's a rune lens, and it doesn't do anything. It's like a magical item, but it doesn't have its own willpower. It doesn't affect the user really, I guess. And it doesn't really build up for that. And they don't have like, oh, this is a true lightning rune, or the true death rune, or the true, because the runes have abstract in the Suikoden games, like order and chaos and dawn and twilight, and they're the same rune, but yeah, twilight and moon and sun and so on. So they have like this, moon is like vampires and so on. So they have like conceptual powers, right? The moon rune makes vampires, you know what I mean? The sun rune makes the children, dawn and twilight and so on. The chaos or the order rune makes like there has to be an order and so on. And the user gets immortal and wants to get more order or chaos and blah blah so on, right? But in this game instead, the rune lands are just the same thing. They are stuck in some old dungeon, right? You go through the dungeon, but then the actual rune has no personality, has no like backstory of, oh, this is the true whatever, then that rune. And they use it's like a power item, yeah. So it's really really weak, right? And even if they make more game in 100 Heroes, it's like there's nothing to build on that, right? Yes, you have the rune lenses that I've been calling them runes, but you don't have like, again, they have no backstory, no personality. So who cares, because a few rune lenses are in this game, but because they don't have any specific, again then, like specific powers or whatnot, right? It doesn't matter, right? But you play the original Suikoden game, it's like, oh, in this game I have the sword rune, and then in the next game I get the lightning rune, and then I talk about those two runes in the fourth game, and then they combine those in the fifth game, or whatever, right? So to speak. But in this game it's like rune 1, 2, 3, yeah. Like it's really weak, so it's really, really badly written from both lore standpoint and story standpoint. And also lastly, the character. The character design is also pretty bad in the game, honestly. So I don't hate them or whatever, they're not terrible, but it's like lazy, okay? It's lazy. And I think that this game has an issue that other Kickstarter, like nostalgia game has, right? Where the game developers are so afraid of doing something new, right? So obviously we have to have the 100 playable characters like Suikoden, fine, We have to be, we have to be Suikoden old school, right? So that's fine. This is what the game is, right? 100 characters. But literally, they're the same character. They're so afraid. Kickstarter nostalgia people, they're so afraid of making anything new. So in this game, right, they have Vicky, teleporter girl, which is clumsy. This game you have Carrie, teleporter girl, that is clumsy, right? It's too much like Mighty Number 9 or whatever over again, where they make a Kickstarter campaign, and it's purely nostalgia. So every character here is basically another character we have already seen before, right? So instead of having red hair, she got blue hair. Same personality, new name, but it's like CJ is BV, and it's like, whatever, yeah, it's that kind of feel to it. And it just feels so incredibly lazy. So even if the characters isn't like terrible, it's just like almost every character, I recognize them from the previous game. I recognize them, right, from one of the other Suikoden games. And it just feels like, what did they actually do with, from a writing standpoint, from a lore standpoint? They just took, like, a character from Suikoden 3, who gave a green hair instead of blonde hair, and called it a day. That's really how it feels. And I keep saying it, but I think this game is massively bad, and I think it's very lazy. And again, it does feel like a general Kickstarter issue, right, where the developer is too much banking on your nostalgia, so they are too afraid of doing anything new, right? Because it's like 100 plus characters. Some of them could have some other personality traits, or I mean, it can still be tropey. Okay, it can still be tropey, almost very tropey because there's so many characters. But it feels like I almost seen all of them before, and it's so lazy when it's like, of course, this girl is like that girl. Could it be something else? Could it be like a guy doing? Could it be a maid sort of whatever? Like, why is it that the teleporter girl is clumsy in both games? You know what I mean? Could it be like something else? Could it be that the warrior guy is clumsy or something at least? Does it have to have the same like Dere trope type for the same kind of role too? It's just like, oh, it's so lazy. It's just disappointing. But it's not the biggest thing in the game. I feel nitpicky because there is 100 playable characters. So you have to have a little bit laziness and kind of reuse some tropes or that is fair. But it just feels so obvious. They're trying to be like, oh, people like this game 20 years ago, so let's just redo it with a new skin. But I think this speaks, though, to the core issue in this game, right? Because the game is so lazy, and they just take characters from this game and, like, reskin them, right? They have this sense of personality, and they take, like, this combat system, but make it worse with worse balance. And they take the storyline, because the storyline is very similar to Suikoden 2, right? Which is way worse. like Yowie Siege, it's like worse Siege, main characters are worse, blah blah so on. It's just way worse, right? Because they're so lazy and cowardly and just trying to cope with their own game 20 years later, right? With no new things whatsoever, and everything is more buggy and worse balanced, the game comes off as incredibly bad, right? Because you're basically just taking what you already had and making it worse, right? This game has no purpose to exist, because everything this game does is just way worse this game did 20 years earlier, right? It literally is worse every possible way. Because even if you ignore it has worse balance, way worse minigames, so on, right? It also is more buggy, it has more crashes, so it also technically is better. It's technically bad, worse design, worse character design, and just generally worse storyline. So nothing in this game has any purpose to exist, right? Because they're both cowardly and it's both bad on execution point and on the plan. Both of it is just terrible. I hate it. Now, lastly, the game also has really terrible localization, rewriting, it's woke, whatever, guys. But honestly, press the video, subscribe, press the like button, right? But I already made a video about how this game is woke and so on. So I'm just gonna be a little bit like, I will explain it here briefly, and I hope you guys, if you got so far in this video, right, I hope you guys will check out the links below. And I really mean this thing because the game is massively rewritten in English. It's very bad. It's incredibly bad, honestly. But like I said, I already made a video about it, so I don't want to go into too much detail here, because I feel it's pointless having already explained it in like half an hour video, right? However, what is the issue then? And I want to really emphasize here, this game has two massive issues when it comes to this thing, right? Yes, it is woke. The game using words like Chud or incel or whatever, right? That makes no sense in this Japanese game. It doesn't fit in storyline whatsoever. That's very like politically inserted from America and shouldn't be in the game. It's also the reason why I shouldn't buy this game, and why the Japanese has to stop using these like activist people in America, right? Absolutely 100%. However, a big issue with this game is that classic issue that I talked about in previous videos, how some people working with localization doesn't actually want to be localized, right? It's like the worst job in the industry. So you're either, you get the job, you get the promotion as soon as you can, and get a better job like game designer or whatever, right? Producer and so on, or developer and so forth, or you quit, right? Or you change job, like you are a localizer, but you just do it for diplomacy instead, so you get paid way more, you know what I mean? So the only people that stay as a localizer are the most incompetent people that cannot get a promotion, meaning that's the most weakest, usually uneducated buffoons, basically. Of course, I'm generalizing, but really seriously. These people dream, right, of making their own games. They don't want to be localizers, so they rewrite these games, right? They're rewriters. They are not localizers. They're not localized either. They're rewriters. And this game, then, Chronicles 100 Heroes, is rewritten constantly. I have played the game right, in Japanese with English text, and almost every line is incorrect, okay, straight up. Character like Leon, especially, has a completely different personality on English and Japanese. On English, it's way more intellectual, so on, right? That's a rewriter. It's not a woke thing, honestly, it's a rewriter. That person wants to be the writer for a game, right? But they can't get hired for that, so instead they're localizing, but they're actually just rewriting stuff. They're rewriting the character how they want them to be, you know what I mean? They're looking at the character art, then they make up their own story. This is seriously how people did in the past with hen stuff, you know. Back in the past, hen stuff usually was rewritten, right? People didn't do it, especially they're rewriting it, writing their own story to images. These people are like hen rewriters. They look at the image of these characters and then they just rewrite them. They just add their own storyline to them. Oh, this girl got blue hair. She's a water magician. I mean, they just write their own storyline because they don't want to be localizers. They actually want to be game writers and so on, but no one wants to hire them, right? And that's the last issue of the game, of course. Those people are working on this game massively, and seriously, it is easily the worst, arguably, localized game that I have played in years as well. The same people that had done, I think, Eiyuden Overlord, they also has a terrible localization, but this game is way worse. Like, I mean, literally, almost every line in this game is wrong. Like, seriously, almost every line is wrong. But it's not that they are wrong, and I want to put that, yes, they are woke too, of course, sometimes, but it's mostly that they're not like wrong as in, oh, they're throwing in incel or whatever. It happens, but not that often. It is more that they're rewriting the character, right? When Leon especially speaks, she might say in Japanese, oh, you dummy, right? And then in English it's like, well, I don't agree with your opinion about that. It's like, what? It's not what she said at all. She's like, baka yana! In Japanese, you know. Like baka means dummy, right? Baka! And then in English it's like, I disagree with your stand on this thing. Like, what? Like, so they completely rewrite the character. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's important to understand, right? But honestly, of course, it gives these games yet another minus point. And it really is, genuinely. I keep saying this, but it is like the worst localized game I think I've seen this year as well, or at least in a few years, yeah. Because it's like every line is wrong. Every line has some weird language. Every character has been changed from English. I'm lucky that I can understand it, lucky, but whatever you call it. I feel that I'm lucky that I can play it on Japanese and understand more or less everything being said. Maybe not every word, to be honest, but I get by, so to speak, right? So I understand mostly everything in Japanese. One word or two, maybe, but and I can just ignore the text because it doesn't make any sense. It's just so bad. To have to bring it up to, but yeah, I have another video, of course, that explains that much more in detail, right? It's just really, really bugging me, of course. It also ruins the game, right? But everything in the game feels really, failed. Like, this is all something that I would have cared about. And I understand that the Japanese are too trusted with this thing, and they are too used to this is all how it's been done, basically. But it just feels like so obvious. This game is just so terribly localized that they should have noticed that, some of them. It feels like there's no control whatsoever over this game, and it's really sad, right? But anyway, guys, hope like the review of the most disappointing game that I've played in a decade at least, and it really is. And other people are gonna cope and say this or that, but no, this game is just terrible. And this game has, like, honestly no purpose to exist, right? Except just being a very bleak version of previously amazing games. And it's just like, I mean, literally everything is worse, right? Everything is worse. The storyline is much worse. The character design is worse. The combat is worse. The balance is incredibly much worse, right? And also, I didn't bring it up, but I prefer the rune system of the old games, where you had like different rune system where you could instead of having mana, you basically had like 3 different runes, and then you had different like points per level of it. That was more interesting. In this game, it's just I say it, a mana stat, right? Like everyone has mana. And that's also one of the reasons why, for example, that healer uses, right? Because a tank with high mana is a better healer, as I said, than a normal healer, right, so to speak. So in the balance, the old game had a better magic system for diversifying at least healer versus tank and so on. This game has this like rune equipment system, but it doesn't really matter that much anyway, because every spell is so useless right in the game. You basically just go for stats anyway, like 10% more physical damage, the more health and so on is much more useful than mana or whatever, or other skills. So that didn't do much. The only thing I would say, to be fair, my last point of the game that's positive is that when you're building up the city in this game, that feels better though, because you have like a talent tree. You have to build different buildings. That's the only thing I would say this game actually improves on. Honestly, it's like it's the same thing anyway. You have a blacksmith, you have an armor guy or a woman in case, but you get like a blacksmith and so on. That's improved, honestly. The talent building tree, that's more interesting. And you have to have this like mission thing to farm it by guys that are doing it automatically for you and so on. That actually is slightly better. That's the only mechanic in the whole game I feel that is better than the previous games. But also again, it also could also tedious, because so many of the talent steps are pointless. It's just like you take several steps on the fishing tree, like who cares? You take several steps, like 5 steps to get over here or something. So again, it feels like it's very bloated, where it probably could have been maybe half as many like talent nodes, right? With the same cost or whatever. It feels like it's so many steps for very minor stuff. So it's not a good talent tree. I mean, I sound nitpicky, but it isn't. It's not a good talent tree. It's like a mediocre, very bloated talent tree. And it's also one thing The talent tree is kind of weird because it shows you the character that you need to unlock to get the thing. So it also kind of spoils for you. You can arguably it helps you. So it's a kind of weird thing. You can go to the talent tree and figure out who to recruit as a blacksmith. You can see the membership. It's a strange thing. But arguably that's a feature then to help you. You also have an old a woman you can talk to, Baba, like an old oracle lady that will give you a fortune telling something where the characters are. But otherwise, yeah, it's. I think generally the only thing that's better is basically like that thing, because everything else is just worse. Like straight up. There are also other stuff I have to bring up, like the item thing is annoying. The item limited item thing is annoying. The trading is in the game still, and that still works basically at the previous games. And it's not better or worse. It's literally like the same thing. More, yeah, it's like more. You can buy diamonds here, set it over there, more specific teleporting it very easily. But it's just more or less exactly the same thing. So no real thing to mention there. I like it, the bonus. I like it, but I mean, because again, right, this game is just a copy of an old game. If they have a game mechanic that's exactly the same as the previous game, it's kind of like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, the thing is that this game truly doesn't improve anything, really, right? Ignoring the talent tree of the buildings, which are, again, very, very mid, okay? It's better, but it's still mid. The trading, yet again, it doesn't improve on it, right? It's the same thing. There's very, very minor changes to it. It could have been way better, because I have played many other games in my life with better trading than Suikoden, right? I still like trading Suikoden 2 or 3 or whatever. It's fine, but the thing is that, again, 20 years later, like a decade or two later, you expect them to improve it, right? Look at other games, like trading games, New Horizon, whatever. Look at other games with trading and so on, and you might think that maybe they can improve on that, right? Make some new mechanics, add some extra spice to it, right? But instead, it's like exactly carbon copy with this thing. And then with other things like the synergies, the combo attacks, right? It's a carbon copy, but worse math balance. So it's just like a carbon copy that is strictly worse. I keep saying it. Everything in the game is basically just worse. And that's just so lazy. 20 years later, right? It is truly is the most disappointing game that I ever played in my life. It is for the last few years, seriously. Anyway, I love you. Subscribe and have a great day.